Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwartner. I'm the founder and CEO of Selling Power, and it is my pleasure to welcome everybody to our webinar. Today we talk about the Sales Capacity Challenge, how to never miss a sales-ready opportunity. And here's the good thing. We have no slides. This is a conversation between us and the audience, and I invite you to submit your questions as you think of them. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Rashmi Vital. She's CMO of Conversica. Hi, Rashmi.
Hi, Gerhard. Pleasure to be here.
And also we have Brett Blackney. He is Global Director of Sales Development with HackerRank. Welcome, Brett.
Thanks, Gerhard. Excited for the conversation here.
And I want to thank everybody in the audience for participating. So, as you all know, not all sales leads are equal. And you all know that sales time is limited. And the new challenge that we are facing is the Sales Capacity Challenge, which really means to me, how do we do this magically that we deliver the best leads to the best salespeople in the fastest possible time? Rashmi, what is your definition of the Sales Capacity Challenge?
Yeah, thanks, Gerhard. I mean, this is one where every organization out there, especially most of the ones that I talk to in the B2B world, they're driving to try and optimize their marketing and sales funnel, right? And if you think about it, marketing's teams one of their key purposes is to generate leads. Then some teams have things like a sales development or a business development team, and their role is to try and get those leads and get them to have meetings with salespeople. And then obviously sales teams are really focused on working with those, accelerating those leads and converting them into revenue. But the one thing that we know is that process isn't always optimized. And how can you ensure, right, that the greatest number of leads are touched in an optimized and efficient manner? And what we suggest today, what we propose is the fact that there's just not enough time in the day for salespeople alone to be able to effectively and efficiently work each of those leads in a way that drives to pipeline contribution or to revenue. So, sales folks need help with that, and that's effectively what we call the Sales Capacity Challenge. Really simply, for those who are very formulaic, it's when the number of leads is greater than the sales ability to follow up on them. And obviously things there, even when you account seasonality, even when you account different types of campaign structures that you might implement or campaign strategies that you might implement throughout kind of the time, this is always a norm.
I find it really fascinating because the world clearly has changed, and what you're going to hear from Brett a little bit later is really fascinating to me. That you think about just 10 years ago, the biggest challenge was lead generation, and they wanted the Glengarry leads, and 10 years ago everybody complained that leads are not sales ready, or marketing is not playing from the same sheet of music of sales. But now we have accelerated the lead flow, and we have so much amazing technology that gives salespeople access to so many new opportunities. And the new challenge is now sales capacity. So why don't we ask the audience and see how they feel and think? Do we have a poll slide? Or let's do this, just with yes or no. Here we go. Do you struggle with a sales capacity challenge? And just select yes or no. Let's shift over to Brett for a second while you're thinking about yes or no. Brett, when in your career did you become aware that there's a massive shift going on in the way leads flow into the company?
Yeah, I think that really dawned on me when I became on the management role and took a step back and look at the full leads. When you're an SDR or a sales rep, sometimes you're in the silo of just your patch. But you start realizing there's a lot more leads out there not just the top quality ones that you're for sure following up with, but maybe some of the tier B leads that aren't necessarily bad and should have some type of interaction with the sales org. But it's just figuring out the time and way to get to all these leads on top of your day-to-day and on top of the Class A leads that are coming through.
Awesome. So now we have the results. Rashmi, what do you think? 71% of our audience says yes, they struggle with a sales capacity challenge. And 29% say no.
Yeah, no, exactly. First, I appreciate everybody's honesty and candor. It's sometimes hard to think through that and kind of step above and have an outside looking in point of view. But that's very common in what we see when we're talking to various organizations. So not too surprised.
Yeah, there's another, if you zoom out a little bit more, when you look at the information technology and how everything has changed, there was one Nobel Prize winner who said that we live in an age where there is now abundance of information and poverty of attention. So the abundance of information creates that poverty and of attention. And clearly, we need a new gold standard for developing a sales organization where salespeople are doing what they do best, interact with the right customers at the right time. So maybe we go to Brett. How does your organization strategize the lead follow-up process so to ensure the greatest number of leads are touched in an optimized and efficient manner?
Yeah, and that's a good question. So first off, it does come to some of the tech stack we have in place, and figuring out which leads should be handled first. That goes back to lead scoring based on who the person is and what action they took. Within my team, those leads that score the highest, that definitely gets a white glove approach. We are reaching out to them, customizing the messaging. But then you have all those leads that didn't score as high. Maybe they stopped by an event. Maybe they attended a webinar but didn't fully engage. And for those, we still want to make sure we get our hands on, but our team has built out process using some automatic cadence tools where we've customized cadences to send more auto emails out to at least get in front of these people, hands-on nurture them, providing them more content, but it doesn't take as much strain from my team of having to craft every email for every lead that comes our way.
Rashmi, what is your take on this?
Well, I think there are different strategies that are put into place today by both marketing and sales teams to better understand the viability of those leads in the funnel. But ultimately, the question you have to ask yourself is, because not all leads are created equal, how can you find the ones that are actually sales ready? And because they're not created equal, sales folks are going to do the things that Brett says. One is, sure, they're going to use scoring tools and methodologies to help them understand which leads, quote unquote, could be sales ready. But let's also be honest, salespeople are also, because they have a limited time in the day, they're busy and they're selective. They're going to also cherry pick which ones that they think have a higher likelihood to be sales ready or not. And you don't know if the reasoning or the attributes they're using is going to be always effective in determining which ones are sales ready. And so you combine that along with the fact that we're all human, right? We can find our own tendencies, right, to say that we are not robots. We're not going to be able to come to work every day, work exactly, and be 110% productive 8 hours of every single day. We get sick, we go on vacation, et cetera. That's what's beautiful about being human. But at the same time, from a productivity standpoint, we can't always be, quote unquote, maximize productivity. And so your quote was really spot on. At some point in time, we as people must look at it and say, there's so much information, in this case, so much opportunity being generated. It's just not humanly feasible for us to be able to attack that in a complete enough manner that's going to realize the business results that we actually need.
Well, thank you. That brings up another question when you talk about what leads are sales ready. So I imagine that big bucket of leads that is in some system inside a company. And that bucket is not transparent. So you have different ways of doing a triage and sort leads by, let's say, by source. Here's a demo request, and that's a different lead from somebody who downloads a piece of content. So Brett, what do you do in your organization to gauge the interest in your company's service?
And you're referring to gauging the interest once they come in for an inbound lead, just determining who's probably more interested than others. Is that what you're looking for there?
Exactly. Yeah. How do you achieve that? How do you sort through what the methodology do you pursue for finding that nugget where you have do you have a way of sorting through that in a fast and efficient way, so that you don't deliver garbage leads to your sales team?
Yeah, and that is an interesting idea. I mean, directly to the sales team, we route what we call hand raisers, and I think people are familiar with this. That's the request, contacts, and trials. They're taking a step forward and asking for us to engage. Those go directly to the team. For the other types of leads, downloads, content syndication, webinars, etc., some of those will make it through just because they're a good persona, but they do go into a cherry picking bucket based on the person's region and territory, where they can easily filter out by title, by what they've done. And once again, there's human bias to this. Are they picking all the right ones? We do not know. But they're getting to most of them, at least with high level touches. And for those leads, the team works on putting them into a track that isn't going to secure the meeting right off the bat, but trying to get them engaged with one other piece of content, trying to be their ally in this learning process as they're learning more about our product and the industry. So once they bite on that, that's when the team will really go in heavier. But that's our way of being able to sift through the softer leads to see who really has a little more engagement and is ready for a conversation.
So go ahead, Rashmi.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to add on top of that, and Brett's like spot on. I mean, there's certain things around you can work kind of the lower mid-score type of leads, but at the end of the day, as we talked about, there's going to be kind of the people effect associated to that, and whether it's human bias, cherry picking, whatnot. But I think at another level too, it's just the fact, and you have to ask yourself about this within your organization, of even if all things were working smoothly, right? Is our sales team, or not just smoothly and efficiently, is our sales team really to keep up with the volume that's delivered to us? It's not just for those active leads that are coming in. I think another gap that's created quite frequently is the fact that there are different types of lead buckets or lead categories that get created, right? There's leads that sure you get that are you want to work, especially very quickly as they come through, maybe within the first 30 days. Different teams have different type of SLAs. But what happened to those leads that are sticking in or maybe recycled, or that go dark after a couple of touches? What happened to those leads? So there's an increasing number of leads that may not just be considered active leads, but can be more of that recycled or other bucket group that you have to ask yourselves, do we even have the opportunity or the capacity to be able to go out and outreach on those leads? Because frankly, while some people's, maybe the BANT for them wasn't correct, at the time of engagement, maybe it's correct 60, 90, 120 days later, but are we actually going back to those to really directly ask them if they're now ready to go talk to a salesperson? And that's another opportunity where we see a lot of our customers and a lot of organizations really leaving money on the table, and the fact that they don't have a real reliable way to go after those other types of buckets of leads.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, because I was doing a lead audit yesterday, and I came across the lead that had said, hey, we're not ready. We need to talk in 6 weeks. That's when I'm getting this project kicked off. Within that time frame, this comes to the human aspect of business, we switched territories, accounts shifted AEs. So when I was doing my lead audit, I saw this lead was not followed up within 6 weeks per that person's request. And it wasn't anybody's, well, it's people's fault, but it was stuff switched territories, account switched. The new AE wasn't aware of this because it was on the other AE's calendar, so the ball got dropped. So even if you have process and things in place, just the aspect of business, the changes that happen, stuff will slip through the cracks, and that was money left on the table. And I agree. I've used Conversica in the past, full disclosure there, but that was my biggest use cases, was these nurtures, these follow-ups to get back on the calendar. So the team didn't have to think about it. They could lock it, load in the system, and the AI took care of getting that conversation initiated again.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see every lead with sort of an invisible with 3 flags. One is a time flag, as you say, they want to be contacted in 6 weeks, and some people say I'm not ready in 3 months, and you probably have, everybody has about 25% of leads that are in the bucket that not going to mature this year, that may go into 2020. The second flag is the dollar flag. What is the opportunity with that client? Is this a big company? Is this a small startup? How big is the opportunity for us? And I think there's a third flag, which is the level of challenge. Some leads are from high level decision makers, and some leads are come in where there is still a lot of work to be done to work your way up the chain, because the average number of decision makers is increasing. So the more decision makers you have, the more complex the sale. So it brings up a question. Do you think, and I want to ask the audience, why don't we do a poll? Do you think that an AI assistant can help alleviate your sales capacity challenges? Because I think that with the increased complexity that we are experiencing, we need better tools. And I think the old gold standard, which is having salespeople do all that qualification work in advance, I think AI, it's my personal opinion, that's what AI is for. And Rashmi, how many AI solutions are they out there for sales already that you know of?
So yeah, no, it's a good question. And as people are thinking about this, let me provide a little bit of background. Like, what do you mean by an AI assistant in this context? Like, what are we talking about here? What we're talking about is where an AI assistant can augment an existing sales team to help go after their leads, and do so in an autonomous fashion, where think of an AI assistant as a virtual team member on your sales team, where it can actually go out and conduct a natural two-way interaction between itself and your lead to determine a number of things, whether that lead is interested in talking to a salesperson, helping that lead get to schedule a meeting, seeing if that lead is looking for other types of information. And in some instances, a lead just might have a commonly asked question. You can just go ahead and answer that question for them. And so at the end of the day, it's really about, how can you provide that extra coverage across all of your leads, not just the active ones, but across those ones that we were talking about. Just, and exactly to Brett's point, I mean, between the changes in the organization and how sales teams change up territories and coverage of those territories, to even when things, and Brett, I'm sure you know this well, having been in the sales development role for a while, but especially sales development people, they come and go very quickly, right? They have very kind of rapid career progressions, and so it takes a lot of time and ramp up, not only to find the role, but also to ramp them up to start being productive. That's a constant cycle you're looking at, and so therefore there's always going to be these productivity gaps or the sales capacity issue, because you don't have anything to help kind of push things forward as you're constantly recycling through all these things. So really, an AI assistant is all about providing that extra coverage, augmenting the sales team so that they feel confident that they're going after all of their leads in a personalized manner that helps drive to that next best action.
Well, what do you think of the numbers? 93% said yes.
Then I would say, everybody on the phone, please please go to Conversica.com and request a demo. We'd be more than happy to show you how we can help your organization out. But no, I mean, I think this is, look, the future of work is now, AI is playing such a big role. It's not just about, and look, there's a lot of, kind of fear and sensationalism about AI from a negative perspective. And there's going to be some impact of that. But really what we're seeing, and I think you're going to hear more from analysts and influencers out in the market, what we're actually seeing is how AI can actually help us be more productive, be higher performing, and ultimately just help us enjoy what we're doing more. Because I don't know about you, I rather spend my time having a meeting with a customer than trying to chase one down, right? And so let's help our teams be more productive by doing that, and then having our people do what they do best, being creative, being strategic, building those trusted relationships, right? This is where people thrive. And I'd rather kind of develop us having a thriving environment than one that's, stuck in the status quo.
Let me reframe the conversation a little bit, and I want to get Brett's opinion on, share with the audience. You talked about the analysis that you did just yesterday. What are your sort of warning signs where you want to explore whether your funnel is truly helping you execute on your sales strategy? Where do you have early warning signs that tell you that you're not on the right track? You got to change the funnel.
Yeah, and that's question's gonna have a few different points to bring up for the warning signs, but eventually our end goal is revenue. Revenue drives our team. We're looked at getting meetings, but revenue is the end goal. So my first warning sign is we're getting our meetings, but they're not converting into revenue and pipeline. So when that happens, I have to start going backwards into the funnel and seeing why that's happening. Is it we're getting meetings with the wrong types of people? Is it that we're not getting enough meetings? We're getting them there, but we just need more at bats to get to where we need to be. And that's where I really start analyzing the data, looking at the type of titles that we're reaching out to, and digging into the number of touches per lead and how fast we're reaching out to these leads. And these leads sit in our queue for 1 to 6 days, where they reached out to within the 3-hour SLA that they need to be done. So there's a lot of different knobs and areas that turn and look. And usually it's not just one of them, it's usually a combination. Sometimes we're reaching out to a lot of leads on time, but they're the wrong people. And the better people we're getting to later. And that just comes to the team prioritizing the wrong bunch and working on training them. I think a lot of the holes I'm finding is coming back to the people aspect of the business. And it's something you work on and you train, but when you get new hires, it's even harder, and you start seeing the gap there just because they're not as quick. They don't know the business as well. But those are the types of things I look into: is how fast, how many touches, and are we getting the right type of meetings to drive revenue and the end goal.
So Rashmi, in order to avoid leaving money on the table with the lead buckets that you have that are not worked efficiently by the sales force, what are the expectations of an AI assistant? What specifically does that assistant do for the sales organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally one of the things is that you could start immediately addressing the capacity problem, right, by touching every lead, and you can do so at scale. So even if your business has variability or seasonality in it, you want to make sure that not only are you capturing those peaks, but also when when you're in the valleys as well, you're making sure you have the opportunity to go back to again perhaps those aged leads or those leads that say come back to me 6 months later, and then you have the ability to do that. And you'd be surprised, even on just things like dispositioning leads correctly. I've seen organizations just there's a difference between what is something truly DQ'd versus recycled. Well, if it's not, some teams just set up their nurture programs in the way that they don't even touch DQ'd because it's supposed to truly be DQ'd. But if you ever do an audit, whether you do it on a quarterly basis, a biannual basis, or an annual basis, you'll see that there could be a big stack of DQ that really should be in recycled, and you're not touching them. So what an AI assistant can do from day one can actually start working and touching those leads and then determining whether there's any value in it. We've worked with a number of customers. One customer went after and started working with, they had about 50,000 what they called C and D leads, but these types of age leads, and they were able to find in 1 year $10 million of net new pipeline and $1 million of booking off of that. These are leads that never would have been touched by a salesperson, right? They were just sitting there, but yet there was so much money that was in their bucket that they were able to surface them and take advantage of those.
That's an amazing story. Brett, are you using an AI tool like Conversica for your leads?
Right now, we are not. We use SalesLoft for my team with some of the automated cadences and rely on the traditional marketing nurture through Marketo. In a past life, I have used Conversica and built it out. We really used it for events. We did a lot of events at that company. So that was a huge influx of leads every time we did an event. And we use them for a lot of the follow-up messaging, the more hands-on sales nurturing. So I've seen the value. It's just figuring out what fits in my ecosystem here and the one and only budget. But it definitely helped relieve my team. And I can't say how excited they were when the AI actually got them a meeting that they had forgotten about. When it came through, they recognized the person, knew who it was, remembered, and it got brought back. So it was always an exciting time when that happened.
So what are the consequences? I want you to spell it out for the audience. What are the consequences when marketing generated leads exceed the capacity of the sales team to engage with each and every one? Like you get that flood of leads after a conference.
Yeah, you're not getting the best follow-up on each and every lead. I think to sum it up, things slip through the cracks, whether that is a consistent and aggressive follow-up touch model, whether that is getting back to somebody in the time frame they asked you to reach back out. But it really, you get more slipping through the cracks, which means less revenue down the line. And the AI kind of helps plug that hole. It's ensuring people are getting consistent touches because the AI doesn't take vacations. It doesn't get overloaded with other work or meetings that come into the books. And it doesn't forget about follow-ups. So that's really where it helped drive the success for my team.
I'd be curious, I'd like to get the audience involved and just type in your questions if you have any questions that are related to that. But I would be interested in your challenges that surround sales leads. What are your challenges right now? Just type in a few words so we get some clarity on how we can help you. Rashmi, what do you do when you get flooded with a lot of leads?
Well, so within our own organization, we're lucky to be able to run multiple AI assistants to handle those. In fact, we are constantly testing and working on different best practices to get the coverage and that we need. But again, we are constantly looking at this. We don't have it nailed down to the point of where it's I can sit back and say, all my leaks have been plugged. And just from the mere bucket of the fact that, we are constantly generating a lot of leads. But one thing that we do, and we do very well, is we do use our AI assistant to help us not only on just post-event in terms of when we have an event and then being able to follow up. And I think probably a lot of people on the call know this, is that there's a real time span of engagement conversion from the time an event happens to the time you follow up. And for every 12 to 24 hours, like 12-hour increments, you delay in trying to reaching out to a lead that you captured in an event, the less likely they are to engage with you and to respond back. And so that's why it's really important. You as people you might have your SDR team or your sales folks out at the event working it. And then when they come back, they might be like, God, I need a day. That was a lot. I was on my feet all day. I'll get to these leads tomorrow or next week. And what happens is that your engagement rates dropped down quite a bit. Well, what if you could actually use an AI assistant to go ahead and reach out to them within that 12 and 24-hour period pretty consistently, such that you're going to get a response because it's fresh in those leads' minds. Now you're going to see an increase in activity, so that when you get back after taking a day off, you can come and you can see a lot more hot leads in your queue that you can go follow up on. But that's for post event. Before an event, why not try and determine your own, control your own destiny? Set up as many meetings as you possibly can. Yep, SDR teams are great at being able to call blitzes, sending out cadences to make sure that they get those folks to sign up for a pre-booked demo. But again, if you're going to a large event that has thousands and you're getting that registration list, what is the reality that your team is actually going to do that? Sure, they could put it they could use something like a sales acceleration tool, like a sales loft or outreach or whatnot, but that is only within the capacity of the sales individual. The minute it exceeds that, right, then you have to ask yourself, are we able to get the coverage that we need? So using an AI assistant to go out and ask if somebody is interested in having a meeting at the event really can help drive not only a better experience, but also a good productive meeting at the event. And then when you do the follow-up right after, you're going to drive greater engagement rates.
Can I add one more idea, Rashmi? I think what you're doing is really illuminating, because we run 3 Sales 3.0 conferences, and we always recommend to our sponsors to follow up within 12 to 24 hours, because history has shown that if you wait a week or two, then people are on another orbit, and they think about different things, and there's a high distraction factor. So I like what you're doing. What I would recommend in addition to that is to tell your salespeople at an event, when they engage with a customer and there is some slight interest, to actually suggest to book an appointment right on the trade show floor and put it in their calendar. And we have found that exhibitors at our, when we teach them that trick, that they'll walk away with about 25 to 30 appointments for the next 10 days after the conference, where they immediately follow up, and they close a lot more deals.
Yeah, that's a great point, and a really good best practice to implement.
So somebody asked a question, the right cadence. Am I doing too little or too much in my cadence? I think cadence is an interesting topic. Thank you for asking. Brett, what is your take on that? What is your best practice?
Yeah, and my best practice, I think there's a lot of different views on this and being aggressive and whatnot. But for cadences, the first thing I look at, it's, can the team maintain the cadence? There's some where you do touches every 2 days, stuff starts overlapping, the rep gets overwhelmed, and they don't get through all their tasks that day. If that's happening in your organization, what's the point of that cadence if it's not being followed? So with my teams, I run a every 3-day double touch cadence. So every 3 days, someone gets a call and email. Sometimes we drop a voicemail, and sometimes we do an additional social touch. But it's an every 3-day touch. So that way, our leads are getting touched by my reps twice a week with 4 different touches, a call and an email. And what this ends up doing is we run this touch model for 3 to 4 weeks. So we end up hitting these leads on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday over that time period, in case they have work from home days or whatnot. So it's a touch model that the team can keep up with. They can predict what's coming the next day, since none of their leads will overlap once they're in a cycle. They have their own buckets, and it's scalable, and the team keeps up with it. So that's our touch model over here, and it's where it's been everywhere I go, actually. So
awesome. Here's another question. Do you have any pointers to use AI to sell to government clients? Rashmi, what would be your advice?
So that last part was government
clients, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to take a look and say, what is the type of communication or cadence you want to have with your government clients? Certainly, if you're either resource strapped and or if you feel, certainly if you're resource strapped and or you're running up against that model, that capacity issue, you can certainly take a look and say, what is the type of engagement / customer experience we want to deliver, and then make sure that an AI assistant can go ahead and deliver that. Now that's, again, and I don't know if that's coming from an international question or a domestic question, because anytime you think about that, you always have to think about also, that region's privacy and compliance regulations. So if you have proper consent to reach out to that contact, and you can do that, and you're doing it today in your nurture programs, adding an AI assistant to do the outreach is certainly possible.
There's one more question. Does the AI assistant allow you to send a message to a prospect to book a meeting? Like, I think it's like a calendar link or something like that?
Yeah, so yes, it does. So there's full visibility and transparency in the sense that, again, think of the AI assistant as part of your team, and as a team member, and also know that the AI assistant typically is probably integrated into your system of record, whether that's your CRM solution if you're using Salesforce, whether you're using a marketing automation tool if you want to capture inbound leads that are coming in hot through your marketing automation systems. But let's just take the notion of it integrated into your CRM. You can see in there the activity that the AI assistant is doing, and as a sales rep or even as a manager, you could go in there, pause that activity, and then you yourself write in the voice of that assistant an email such that you can, if you want to kind of redirect it in a different way, you have total control over that interaction. But yeah, we certainly oftentimes our conversations will include a link to something like Calendly or something like that, and then people could schedule a meeting that way. And then one of the other things our AI assistants do too is that we also do a follow-up. Once an AI assistant understands that a meeting scheduling is in process, we do a follow-up to make sure that indeed that meeting did get scheduled.
Got it. Brett, how do you handle fluctuating volumes of inbound leads?
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, really we see the biggest fluctuation when we do big events. And that is prepping with the team, making sure we have a good alignment with marketing. So it doesn't just we wake up one morning and there's an influx, but we know that's coming our way. So it's a lot of the groundwork ahead of the campaign, which is making sure we have the right messaging in place, making sure we know the details on the event, who was there, what type of prospects we're going to be seeing. Having all that groundwork laid out helps expedite the follow-up process. And then the team's ready. We set call blocks, we set hours to get through those leads really quick and process them through and get them into our process. And with the planning, it really helps us get through it, and it helps me be able to sit with the team, check that we're getting through them, and see where we're hitting any roadblocks along the way.
Got it. So let's go back to Rashmi. What is your take of how do you handle fluctuating volumes? I forgot to ask.
Well, so a lot of the same things that Brett said, right? We do a lot of planning ahead of time. We coordinate with the sales teams and the sales development teams, but also, we do have a few AI assistants that are working here in our favor. So we will take a look and we'll say, because our AI assistants are always running against different lead types, we'll sit back and say, okay, well, hey guys, let's come up with a strategy in terms of what is the sales team going to go after, or the sales development team going to go after and touch, and what is it that the AI assistant needs to go after and touch, and whether that's using a lead scoring methodology or a status or state of lead. That's for us based on the campaigns that we're running, our trigger to say, okay, how do we want to go after this and tackle this, and eyes wide open, in the sense that the two entities need to work harmoniously together. And so, just like a coordination of a handoff that's been put in place between marketing and sales, there's a coordination handoff between the AI assistant and the sales rep, in the sense that it will follow how it should be set up per your CRM configuration.
By the way, I want to thank the audience for asking really productive questions, and we have a treat in store for you that everybody who participated today will get a white paper and on the sales capacity challenge. But let's continue. How do you handle non-sales ready leads? We haven't discussed that yet. Brad, do you want to
I'll take it first. Yeah, so non-sales ready leads, typically these are going to my marketing organization for continued nurture and driving them into our product knowledge. However, I don't like those that live in a silo. My team, we have visibility into anything that comes into the system, whether they're sales ready or non-sales ready. And my team will review that queue once a day, twice a day, and try to find that maybe they're targeting an account and someone came through who wasn't sales ready, but we're already involved with that account. So my team will cherry pick some of these, but we don't go in straight for a meeting or a sell. It's really starting that relationship, and we are doing what we call sales like love nurture. And that is looking at the content they downloaded and providing them some additional assets that help drive their interest up on our own while building that relationship. And that's really how we handle them. They're only taking a small percentage, cherry picking, once against bandwidth, and really relying on marketing to keep the conversation going for the ones we don't pick up.
And Rashmi, same question.
Yeah, and I'd add to that, for the various organizations that we work with and talk to, one of the things that's true is that there's kind of this gap between, those non-sales ready leads. Sure, they're going through nurture programs, but what exactly is nurture? Nurture oftentimes is, how can we deliver more information to a somewhat, you can have some level of segmentation, but mass population around educating them further on either your product, your service, or an overall best practice or approach or methodology, right? But you're educating. And that's great and super powerful and really important. But on average, nurture programs drive about a 3 to 5% engagement rate, because there's some point in that relationship where you got to just directly ask, are they ready now to talk to a salesperson? Are they interested to talk to a salesperson? And it may not always be not only time effective, but cost effective to have your people going after that. It may be more cost effective to offload that work into an automated solution that could go out like an AI assistant that could go out and then ask that question. Hey, are you ready? Are you interested? Are you ready to talk to a salesperson? We see X, Y, and Z activity. Are you ready to talk to a salesperson? And let's go set that up. And so thereby, again, freeing people and teams up to go work more of those active sales ready leads, because that's where you want their time to be spent. You want sales folks' time to be spent on the ones that are actually on the leads that are actually sales ready, not trying to figure out within your big morass of bucket of leads which ones are even considering talking to sales.
So that brings up another question. What is your guidance? What do you share as best practice when people ask, what is a cadence or a follow-up email sequence? When is it too aggressive, and when is it not enough?
So let me just kick this off by. Yeah, I mean, so one of the things, every year we conduct kind of a research on all the various behaviors of sales and sales development teams, and we call it the sales effectiveness tool, sales effectiveness report. And it's really interesting. And obviously, there's always going to be variability based on businesses in the industry and whatnot that you're in. But what's really interesting is that still, even to this day and age, with all some of the tools that are out there, on average, sales or inside sales or sales development folks touch 75% of them still touch leads only between 0 to 2 times. And what we've seen is that we've seen greater engagement, far greater engagement, when those touches go now and jump from more like 7 to 10 touches. And that's over a period of time, obviously. But that just astounds me, right? That the average the average kind of number of touches a sales team does is between 0 and 2. Okay.
Wow.
But the greater engagement actually comes when you're doing 7 to 10. And we're talking like hockey stick type of engagement. And so it's really interesting because, again, it comes right back to the things that we've been talking about. And what really prompted us to really look into the sales capacity notion is that there just isn't enough hours in the day, or people aren't inherently persistent enough, consistent enough, and to be able to drive and do that kind of, and to do what it takes to get to that golden number. And so let's give them a little boost. Let's give them a little help in being able to do so.
So, is there any advice that you can offer? What would be the right content over 7 to 10 engagements? How do you keep that content compelling and fresh each time you send out a new touch?
Well, I mean, I think that's a great question, and it's a combination of, yes, education, but I think with the touches in terms of what like a BDR or virtual BDR might do, it's really around, yeah, you have to do your research. It has to still be personalized. It has to be relevant to that end user and what their need and challenge is. But it also comes right down to is the time right? Is the time right for that person? And so being able to just even merely, there's like 3 things that we see engagement increase: a consistency in being just a consistency, meaning that you are being persistent in the way that you're reaching out, but you're doing so in a very, and people might laugh, but the way that we do our outreach is in a very personalized but very polite manner. Some of the things that we hear feedback on is that when a lead or prospect engages with our AI assistant, they're amazed, one, that it's not human. That we get that a lot. People are a little disappointed when they don't hear the AI assistant on the next follow-up phone call with the sales rep on that intro call. They think it's a real person. And then second is how polite the person was. And I think in our 160 character world these days, we lose that politeness. We lose that ability to just be nice in the way that we outreach to folks, because we're so about getting to the point, that when you are nice, and you're nice every single time, not just on the first email or the second email, but you're polite all the way through to that 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th touch, people actually want to respond back to that. And that consistency and that persistence is the combination that makes it happen.
Well, I think that's very illuminating. It brings up the mindset of the organization. In their 3 levels, there's the transactional mindset, there's the relationship mindset, and the value-based mindset. In the transactional mindset, it's very cold and businesslike and uninspiring. And sometimes when they go to the next level, a relationship mindset, where they have sort of an excessive need for approval. And that goes beyond the boundaries of business sometimes. But if it's truly value-based, then I think it's more effective. But I like your personalized and polite and persistent approach. Those are 3 Ps that are easy to remember. And I really like that you shared that with us, Rashmi. What is your sort of, Brad, your mindset for, and also I want to know from you, how many words in the email? We talked about the 140 character words. Is 500 words too much? Is 120 not enough? What's your advice?
Yeah, and I don't do the word count. I'm still a firm believer of I need to be able to read it on my iPhone without scrolling. Android, whatever phone. If you have an iPad, that's different. But small enough where I could read it on my phone. And I think number of words really comes into if they're valuable. If you're just putting filler in there, if it's just talking about you and your product, it better be shorter to the 150. But if you did your homework and you know their company's initiatives, or you saw they did something that relates back, and referencing that brings it up in more words, I don't think there's an issue there. If you're talking about them, and everyone loves to talk about themselves. So my team really plays, if it's about us, it needs to be short and sweet. If you did your homework and you know your customer, it could be a little longer, but still keep it short enough to be within an iPhone screen. That's where most of us are reading those first emails as they come through.
So Brett,
that's a big point.
Brett, do you create the emails, or are you the content person to create it for them?
The emails?
Yeah.
So we do about 8 to 10 emails in our touch process. We do have templates created, and I'll get to who creates those. Granted, emails 1 through 3, the team, once they're experienced, will usually delete what's in there and do a very customized, personalized email. In terms of who creates these emails, me and my team do workshops once a quarter. We look at where we're running, we tweak the emails based on what we've been hearing back from the market, and we adjust those for the outbound series. For inbound marketing leads, we do partner with marketing, and they used to write our emails for us. They were beautiful, and then we'd sit down and rip them apart. That's what salespeople do. We want it in our language. So now we actually work with marketing where they provide me an outline. Email 1, here's 3 subject lines. Here's 2 pieces of content you might want to include, and here's 3 bullet points that are relevant. And my team will go craft those emails. So it is a collaboration between sales and marketing, and it puts my team's skin in the game and using the knowledge and support from marketing.
So it's awesome. I would say, and add to that, yeah, no, that's great, and I love it. I love that. I think sales absolutely has to put it into their own language and make it their own, because that's where the authenticity comes from. That's where the sincerity comes from, and that's super important. If people out there might be asking, well, how does that translate into something like an AI assistant or automation? Do I have to craft all the emails? I mean, or all the conversations, and then load them up into an AI assistant for it to run? And the answer to that is no, you don't. In fact, one of the things about being an AI assistant is the AI it has to be really part and parcel of the assistant's behavior and capability in that it has learned from over the hundreds of millions of conversations that it's had. And there's some uniqueness to what Conversica has done because it's been around the longest. It pioneered this category, but the more data an AI anything has, and the better it's going to be. And so, having now contacted over 100 million people through our AI systems, having hundreds of millions of messages that have come through, our conversations and the actual conversations libraries that we offer through the AI assistants inherently take all those best practices and all those learnings from all those thousands of assistants and hundreds of millions of conversations to be able to provide that next best conversation that needs to be had. And so that's really important. If anybody is always thinking, oh, I'm having something like an AI assistant speaking on my behalf, the idea is that you've got to really look at what you're working with, making sure across different vendors, does this AI assistant have that breadth and depth of best practice learning within it, and also see the quality of those conversations coming back and forth. I would also say the other thing is really important is that AI is not perfect. It is evolving. And so it's really important that any organization that you work with that's having an AI solution has an actual human in the loop element that vendor is providing, such that they can go and check and make sure that the interactions are happening as they should be, and that confidence levels or whatnot, whatever it is in that interaction can be adjusted and modified, and therefore the AI assistant can learn from that. But in our case specifically with Conversica, we come with hundreds upon hundreds of pre-built best practice conversations. They've already been trained. That's what gets us up and running on that first day to be super productive. But not all AI companies are created equal. So it's really important to look at that and understand that as you think about adopting an AI assistant into your own team.
Yeah, I like the way you framed it, because ultimately we need to create a balance between technology and humanity. So you want to use the best AI software tools and integrate it with the best human practices, so that you don't forget your humanity. And it's all about the customer experience. So the customer expects a holistic, seamless, and pleasant experience when they deal with your company. And Brett, you engage multiple talents in your company, so you don't have to do it alone. So you have a corporate mindset at HackerRank where you show the best version of yourself, but also it's accelerated and enhanced by the best technology available.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's sum it up. If anybody has any more questions, type them in. Rashmi, why don't you lead us with sort of give us 2 or 3 takeaways that we want to implement in the future, that you give us a lot of good food for thought, and you led us to better decisions so we can create more customers.
Yeah, happy to. And just again, thank you for this opportunity. It's been really fun, chatting with you, Gerhard, and you, Brett, on this topic. But ultimately, I think the thing is that as technologies come into play, and as processes are bolstered by automation solutions, we have to find that equilibrium, especially when you think about marketing and sales. As marketing continues to generate a lot of leads, what is sales' ability to handle that? And I think because not all leads are created equally, it's not fair for marketers to ask sales folks to spend or expend the same amount of energy on every lead to try and convert them into pipeline. Instead, there needs to be a better solution for sales teams, a better solution where they can focus on those sales-ready leads, sales-ready leads, and drive those to become pipeline opportunities and closed-won revenue. And then there needs to be a solution in place that could offload that kind of other bucket of that mix between what could be sales ready and non-sales ready leads, and nurture beyond education, nurture to be able to really develop a relationship and ask directly if they're interested to talk to sales, thereby freeing people up to focus on what it is that they do best, and then allowing technology to do what it does best. And so ultimately, that's it. I think there's going to be continued to be shifts in how people think about this. I think traditional methods of doing things won't be able to help, especially leaders of those teams, meet their own business objectives and goals. And so every year we're always asked to do more with less. And how can we do that in a way that consistently meets the business needs?
Thank you, Rashmi. Brett?
Yeah, I agree. I want to agree with everything Rashmi just said. It is valuable. It's all about doing more with less. I'm in those conversations now doing 2020 planning. So how do we do more with less? One thing I want to end this on is I've been a customer before of Conversica. And one thing everyone needs to know is it does help. But you need to be signed up internally and ready to run the tool. Like what Rashmi was saying earlier, you need to be able to watch those come through the funnel, decide as a team what plays you're going to run, and have people working and adjusting the messaging, because they give you great stuff to get started. And it's up to you and their CS team to help drive your engagement even farther and take it to the next level. So as long as you have a plan internally and you're ready to operationalize, these types of tools can do great. But if you just want to plug and let it be, you're going to run into some problems. So I just wanted to reiterate that for everyone. But I loved when I used it. Trying to figure out how to get it back into my workflow. It's just a matter of time.
Well, thank you both. And I want to thank the audience for participating and giving us amazing feedback. And my takeaway is that I really have a sense that AI is going to be the future. I think that the sales capacity challenge is something we all need to pay attention to, because I see it as the new gold standard for thinking about lead effectiveness and sales growth. Thank you very much. Rashmi, you organized that, so you have the last word.
I just want to wish everybody a really happy rest of their day. Thank you again to you, Gerhard, and your team for this opportunity. And Brett, thank you for taking your time out of your busy day to come and join us. So with that, I hope everybody has a good rest of the day. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.